It is now my pleasure to introduce this year's valedictorian. Jonathan Reeves is a lifelong CCA student since kindergarten. He is an outstanding young man known for his intelligence, character, and well-rounded achievements. He served as president of Student Council, Key Club, and National Honor Society, while excelling as a varsity soccer and tennis player and dedicating nearly 400 hours to community service. Jonathan's strong work ethic, leadership, and deep sympathy for others are shaped by both his family values and mission work, making him a positive influence among his peers. Jonathan will be attending the University of Florida in the fall. Go Gators.
Good afternoon, friends and families, teachers and administrators, and the countless mentors who have helped bring us all here today. I know for a fact this room is filled with many people whose diligence and dedication has brought us to such a momentous occasion. Before I start today, I want to honor one person who has made an immense impact on my life. This person is the strongest person I know, the hardest worker I have ever seen, and always serves other people before themselves. Many of you know her as a strict principal. Some of you know her as a kind friend. I get to know her as Mom, the woman who has sacrificed more than anyone to help grow me into the young man I am today. From driving me to and from every practice, to always screaming on the sidelines of my games, you have always been present. On the days I didn't believe in myself, you gave me hope. When I felt lost in a sinful world, you pointed me to Christ. Mom, as the great Kevin Durant once famously said, you made me believe, you sacrificed for me, you're the real MVP. While some may see my accomplishments, Mom, I assure you, none would be possible without you. As our graduating class sits moments away from closing this chapter of our lives, I want to turn back to the beginning of our high school story. You see, my first day of high school went about as poorly as it possibly could. I woke up expecting a magical day. After I got ready, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking I had put on the wrong polo because of how baggy it was. No joke, it felt like I was wearing a dress. I remember shouting to my mom halfway across the house, "Is this a double XL?" To which she responded, "Son, that's a youth medium. You've been wearing that since the 6th grade." So feeling puny was the first moment I realized freshman year may not be what I thought it was. I also remember my first experience with Mrs. Bates. I'll never forget the first words she ever said to me. "Please clear your desk, we have a quiz today." To which I naturally responded, "Are you sure?" I was in disbelief that I was already being quizzed on day one. We hadn't even learned anything yet. So my first day of high school recapped, I realized I wasn't stepping into High School Musical. I was stepping into a season of finding my identity. Perhaps the most impactful memory from my first day of high school came from my brother, of all people. When I returned home that day, I remember feeling discouraged and a dread for the next 4 years. And as I was heading to bed, my brother said something that will never leave me. He said, "There will be some good days and even more bad days. And when you have a bad day, you just have to tell yourself, tomorrow is going to be great." When I had a bad day, I began to have the hope that tomorrow would be great. And boy, was he right. I cannot recall the many times I have come home from a bad practice, a low grade, or a tough loss, and told myself this very reminder. When I began to manifest positivity into my days, their outcomes were often radically better. It was through my brother's statement where I first discovered the importance of what voice you listen to. But as I walked through those tough days, I realized something. Sometimes, even when you tell yourself, tomorrow will be great, tomorrow still feels heavy. And it's in those moments, when the motivation fades and the noise quiets, that I've had to ask myself, where is God in all of this? And so today, I want to take you to 1 Kings 19. But before we can truly dive in, we first must understand 1 Kings 18. And now I know some of you just heard 1 Kings and immediately checked out. I mean, this is one of those books of the Bible that sounds like it's just filled with genealogies, temple measurements, and names we can't pronounce. But I promise you, if you lean in, God has something for you in 1 Kings today. All right, so our main character today is Elijah. Elijah was a prophet of God living in a godless nation. In 1 Kings 18, we see Elijah perform two miracles. First, we see Elijah stand up to the false god Baal. In the story, Elijah and Baal's prophets have this face-off on Mount Carmel. Elijah is fed up with the people because they continue to try and follow both Baal and the one true God. Elijah famously says, "How long will you waver between two opinions?" And in the showdown, both sides lay out a sacrifice for their God to consume with fire. Elijah says in 1 Kings 18, verse 24, "The God who answers by fire, he is God." So 450 prophets of Baal offer their sacrifice, and from morning till noon, they scream, plead, and cut themselves to earn an answer from their God. But no response comes, just quiet. And then it's Elijah's turn. So Elijah builds an altar to God and asks to receive an answer so the people will know he is God. Immediately, fire comes down from heaven, burning not only the sacrifice, but the wood and stones of the altar. God shows up for Elijah in a powerful demonstration. Moving along, 1 Kings goes on to tell God's next miracle. The land had undergone a severe drought for 3.5 years. However, when Elijah prays for rain, God answers. You see, in 1 Kings 18, God moves in the big. He moves in the life-changing. He moves in the way where Elijah and the onlookers can never doubt his sovereignty or power. Right now, for just a second, I want us to imagine how Elijah must have felt. Apparently, pretty good. I mean, he has just performed two of the greatest accomplishments he could ever fathom. But as we turn the page to chapter 19, we begin to see how quickly triumph can turn into turmoil. Elijah, fresh off a mountaintop victory, finds himself in the valley, discouraged, exhausted, and ready to give up. Picking up in chapter 19, Queen Jezebel vows that she will kill Elijah for embarrassing her and her prophets. Rightfully scared, Elijah runs away. And he comes to this bush where he lies down and prays that God will end his own life. Overcome with anxiety and fear, Elijah is ready to end it all. But remember, just 15 verses earlier, Elijah had been on top of his spiritual mountain. But now he sits curled up, asking God to take him away. But an angel comes to Elijah and encourages him to push on his journey just a little bit farther, search a little bit harder, and fight a little bit more. And so he does. And Elijah comes to this cave where he hides from the weight of everything he is feeling. It's there, however, in darkness and isolation, where he encounters God again. God says to Elijah to go out and stand on the mountainside, for the Lord's presence is about to pass by. And so Elijah, while he's standing on the mountainside, a great wind comes, and it tears the mountains and shatters the rocks. But God was not in the wind. Then a thunderous earthquake comes, but God was not in the earthquake. Finally, a fire comes. And in this moment, I can only envision Elijah, who had experienced God in such an amazing and glorious demonstration of fire on Mount Carmel, thinking to himself, this is where God is. But God was not in the fire. He wasn't in any of the magnificent. He wasn't in any of the trembling. He wasn't in any of the noise. Verse 12. After the fire, a gentle whisper came, and this is where Elijah encountered the Lord. A few weeks ago, I was called out of class when I was told I would be this year's valedictorian, and I had worked hard for it. Many late nights and early mornings had been sacrificed. When they told me my hard work had paid off, it felt like a relief. As my heart pounded and a sense of pride overtook me, it felt really good for around 30 seconds. Because after 30 seconds, I already was searching for the next accomplishment which would fill me up. After 30 seconds, I recognized that when we walk out of this room today, no one will care who the CCA class of 2025 valedictorian was. My hope is some of you will talk about how great my speech was at lunch today, but I am well aware of the fact it will be forgotten by most. A few months ago, I anxiously sat in front of the screen as I awaited my admission decision from the University of Florida. And when I saw the word congratulations and realized my effort had been rewarded, it felt like this is what would fully and finally satisfy me. But it hasn't. Which has taught me this important lesson. The long-awaited moments we chase with all we have often fall short because they were never meant to fill the God-sized hole in each of our hearts. And then, just over a month ago, I watched the clock hit 0 and the buzzer sound as the Florida Gators won the men's basketball national championship. And man, let me tell you, I really thought this is where God was. I sat in front of the TV as the orange and blue confetti poured down. It felt euphoric. I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching every highlight and every angle. This one felt good for the longest. But once again, it faded. The next morning, I was still searching for peace, fulfillment, and assurance. It makes me think back to my first day of high school. Standing in my somehow baggy youth medium, overwhelmed and underprepared. I think that day went the way it did because I was chasing the voices that were never meant to satisfy me. I had gotten lost in the noise. The noise which screams, I'm not good enough. The noise of comparison. The noise which says I'll never fit in. Throughout high school, I've thought achieving things will bring me fulfillment. I've spent many hours working tirelessly to be good enough, and have spent many more unsatisfied by the meaninglessness of achievement. Many times, I found myself searching for the presence of God in the busyness of our world. But by God's grace, I've come to see that the noise was never the voice of truth. Because while the world shouts performance, God whispers identity. He doesn't speak over the noise, but he whispers in the still. Now I'd like to ask my classmates, what have you been chasing to fill the silence that only God's voice was meant to fill? Was it in the stress of getting accepted to the best university? Is it in the never-ending pursuit to be liked by others? Is it in the pressure to be good enough? Is it in a relationship you are fighting hard to save? Is it comparing yourself to others? Is it staying busy so you don't have to sit alone with the weight of your thoughts? Whatever it is, I implore you, remain dedicated to quiet faithfulness. While we sit on the mountaintop from this great thing we have accomplished, we can't get lost in the noise. There will be many days ahead where our next step remains unclear. When it feels easy to remain in the noise, remember, God is often in the quiet. We don't need to have all the answers. We just need to be searching for the whisper. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs people who listen to God's voice. And so, as I close today, I want to end with Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. When the noise of the world seems too loud, or when God seems to have gone silent, we can take comfort that God is listening. He just asks that we act just, love mercy, and walk humbly with him. Thank you.